Hello everyone, I'm Kirti Sankla and you are watching Science Craft with Kirti. So our today's episode is really special. We have with us Assistant Professor Dr. Tamar Segal-Peretz from Technion.
Hello.
So Tamar is an expert in electron microscopy techniques and hybrid nanostructure developments in a wide array of applications ranging from semiconductor nano-manufacturing to energy and clean water production. She is leading the lab Functional Nanostructures and Advanced Imaging Lab, and she is also academic supervisor of Electron Microscopy Center at Chemical Engineering Department. And more importantly, I'm working with Tama and she is my supervisor. And
It is my pleasure.
Tama, I really feel fortunate that I met you in 2019 when I came to attend a conference in Israel. I was impressed by you, and I was impressed that how nicely you do electron microscopy and 3D characterization of the nanostructures. And here I am, and I want to tell the world that how one can encourage women in science. So,
Wow. Well, before we start talking about this topic, I want to thank you, Kirti, for inviting me to give this interview. And I also feel very fortunate to have you in my group. So I think you're doing a really good job, and I'm so happy you started this also YouTube channel for interviewing people in science. I found it fascinating.
thank you. So, Tama, like having you as the first scientist guest it was very intentional for me because I am a woman in science and I have faced discrimination at many levels. Now you are already a professor. You have reached the point facing all those challenges, and I am seeing you every day how you encourage women in science. So my first question is like you are not only a scientist, a professor, but you are also a mother. How challenging is it to be a professor and be a mother and have a balance in both the lives?
Okay, so first, yes, it is a challenge. And every day I strive to combine the two major parts of my world, my passion for science and for being a professor and mentoring people, and being a mother raising 3 kids. I do have to say that because I started my career in Israel and most of my life I lived in Israel, I felt from the beginning that there's a very encouraging environment in Israel to raise kids, and it's very acceptable in Israel to have kids during your PhD. Maybe some of the audience doesn't know, but in Israel, most students are a bit older compared to, let's say, US or Europe or other parts of the world. Since in Israel, most people do military service after they graduate from high school, then they take maybe a gap year, travel the world. By the time they start their undergraduate studies, they're already 23, or 22 or 23 or 24, something like that. So by the time they start their PhD or their graduate studies, it's for some people, it's kind of towards 30, which is a typical time for many people to start their family. So it's very acceptable in Israel. And also I feel that the universities, and specifically the Technion, is very supportive in this way. So as a PhD student, you get paid maternity leave for 3.5 months. There are childcare services in campus. And I think that most supervisors feel this is just part of life, and it's very, very acceptable. So for me, I My three kids were born during my PhD. My twins were born in the first year, and my younger son was born in my third or fourth year, somewhere in between. So I always had children with me during my academic career.
Yeah, this is, quite exciting, but yeah, maybe means now after like having a previous experience in my life, I can definitely say that I found it much more happening, like having women with kids and all these things, much more common in Israel compared to other countries. and
Mhm.
um, and it's such means I myself face discrimination, so I can say that that it is there in the world, and it's not really easy when we are in the age of 25 to 35. Then because people expect that we might plan family or something, and then we are directly hindered from the recruitments. So, what would you say those people who are recruiting, and when there is such discrimination, what
Mhm.
would be the thought behind?
Well, the way I see it and the way I recruit, I don't put gender into any consideration. For me, it's really the quality of people that play the central role. At the end of the day, you can have a student or an engineer that will be wonderful and creative and I um, forget the word, a motivation and very dedicated to the work, and doesn't really matter the gender. It could be either male or female, or maybe someone that doesn't even describe himself as a male or female. Everything is okay. The quality is what matters. And when you look back and you can see, let's say in a PhD, through 5 years of PhD, um, it doesn't really matter if someone takes maternity leave for a few months. If a certain student is serious and dedicated, then okay, there's a break, and they come back after the break, and they are all in. It's we're here for the long run, not for the short run.
Yeah, this is the right thing, that we should always, like we should have a vision, and we should look at like we should aim high, not like the short. We should not have short aims. And this is really an answer. And the thing is, I also want to tell everyone that okay, now we are discussing very frankly the challenges women face. So maybe you can also point that how a supervisor should react when a woman or a girl comes that okay, I'm expecting my child, and then the professor gets to know that okay, soon she is going to be on maternity leave. Then what should be the answer from the professor?
Okay, so the way I see it, I think that our first obligation is being mentors for life. Life includes science, includes many things we like, but we're mentors for life. So being pregnant is an important point, and also a scary point for every woman I know. Um, so the most important thing is being supportive, of course. So the first thing I would say is congratulations, and I'm happy and excited for you. And how do you feel?
Yeah.
And then I'll maybe later, not at the same meeting, I'll also ask what can we plan that would help you. Um, of course, if there's any hazards in terms of chemicals and things that we need to consider. Also thinking about how to plan your PhD that will take into consideration that at some point you'll take a break for a few months. How can we help you? And I feel that with this attitude, then the students are also they care about their research, they care about what they're creating in the lab or in their computer. So they want to make the most out of it. So together we kind of formulate what's the best for this next year or two.
Yeah.
I also want to say that, you know, it's always a dual effort. Okay, so well, it's a dual effort with in many aspects. There's the supervisor and the graduate student dual effort. There's also a dual effort, usually a dual effort of the student and his or her spouse.
Yes, spouse plays a key role, yeah.
Sorry?
The support from spouse is also quite important.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I couldn't have done this without my spouse, who took upon himself many of the childcare responsibilities, being more at home, of course, when I travel to conferences, but also on a daily basis, we share parenthood together. But there are many situations in families. Well, maybe some are single moms or single dads. I mean, there's a lot of diversity out there, and every family needs to find its own path. But I think that as long as you decide that you want to be a parent and you want to do a good job in being a parent, and you want to do a good job in your career, it doesn't matter if it's an academic career or another career, as long as you decided you're going to do both of them, then you can find a path to combine the two. But you do need the support. It's not alone, either support of spouse or family or the system.
Yeah. Yeah, like while means when we look up to when I looked that you did PhD in Israel and you had a female supervisor, Professor Gitti Frey. How was
Right.
that experience? Like, did it make a difference in your life having a female supervisor?
Yes and no. Giti was a great supervisor because she's a great person. Um, not just because she was a female. I must tell you that before I started my PhD, I worked in industry for 2 years. One year as a student in a student position, and one year as an engineer in two different places. Both of them, I had a female boss.
Oh,
Yeah, and at the end, I decided I want to pursue graduate studies, so I left my engineering position and came to Technion. And at some point, I felt that my female boss wasn't very encouraging, not because she was a female or a male, but just because of personality. Well, in Giti, I found a very encouraging, supportive person. Yeah, so she was very encouraging during my PhD, and I just imagine how, like, I called her even before I started. I told her I'm pregnant with twins, and I imagine what she thought. But she believed in me as a person, and you know, in the first year of my PhD, I didn't do a lot of research. I was pregnant with twins. I couldn't do a lot in the lab. And then I had maternity leave. Only in my second year, I really started my research. But on the long term, it turned out okay. Um, so, so I think that's the spirit I want to also follow. But I do want to add that, yeah, seeing Giti, she also has 3 kids, and see how she managed academic career influenced me, of course. I believed in myself. I told myself, okay, it's doable, it's possible. Let's try.
yeah, to be very honest, means I never had a female supervisor, or even, yeah, there was a few female teachers or professors I had, but still I was not so close to them that I could really, like, as I discuss with you, or as I get in contact with you, and then I learn a lot from you. So this was also a reason for me to like joining you, that I realized that not only professionally I will learn a lot from you, but personally I had that void in my life, that I wanted to have a female supervisor to look up to, that it's not only the profession, but we also live a life, and how to balance in that. So
Yes.
I find it very important to some, at one point you should at least have one exposure to a female supervisor. At least for women in science, I feel it's really important, so that they get the confidence of having a family as well. Uh,
Right. But I also feel that this has become not just a women in science issue, but a lot of men are also concerned about how they're going to combine being a meaningful parent in the family that they create together with demanding career. I've been in panels where men raise the question, and I think it's really important to understand this is not just concern of women.
okay.
It's concern of a lot of people nowadays, and it should be concern of both gender.
Yeah,
Uh,
still I think men are still, like safeguarded. They still, they don't need to go for that maternity leave for sure. So
right.
they need, after that they can get the leave to take care of the kid or baby, but not before. So still, the main decision comes from the women, and
I agree. There's still a difference, and we're not going to ignore this difference. And there's still a difference in percentage of women in let's say faculty position or in startup companies and all that. But I still want to say that I'm actually happy that more men are concerned about this and they take into consideration how they're going to balance or combine family life together with their career. And it's important to give the support for whoever needs it and wants it.
yeah. And so Tama, you, like, after you did your PhD in Israel, after that you went to USA for your postdoctoral research, and I think that time you already had your three kids, and
Right.
traveled to USA with your kids. So how was that? It must be challenging to travel with kids. You need to take care more. But what were the major learnings besides the professional learnings?
Yes, absolutely. It was a difficult decision. Um, Not so much because of the kids. They were relatively young, between 2 and 5 years old. So we didn't think that. Um, we thought, and it turned out to be true. This it's for their best to be to spend a few years in a English-speaking country, to learn English, to see different parts of the world, different cultures, and to travel. So we were not concerned so much about the kids at that point, but we were concerned about my husband's career since he had a career in Israel, and we decided to move to the US for my postdoc, and that meant that it's going to affect his career, not necessarily he'll find a position in the US. Also, in terms of economically, how we're going to manage this, support a family with five people from a postdoc salary. So there was a lot of concerns. At the end, we decided we're going to do this. We decided as a family that we're going to move to the US. And yes, I can only thank my spouse. He was very supportive, and he took care of he took care of the kids in the beginning when I started my postdoc position, and he was more at home helping them adjust to the new school, the new daycare. And it took several months, but at the end he found a job, a really good job. He was very happy also professionally there. And personally, I think, especially for people in Israel, which is a relatively small country, it's very, it was a great experience to be in another part of the world, to see something else, to see a different culture, not just scientifically and professionally. That, of course, it was, I learned so much, and I developed as a scientist. But besides that, it was a difficult, but also a very interesting experience for us as a family, stepping out of the borders and comfort zone of small Israel to a different location, learning new language, integrating in a new community. Also, as you might have noticed, Israel is a very people really value family connection, and
Yeah,
since Israel
exactly.
is small, people spend a lot of time with grandparents, uncles, aunts. Everything is, you know, within 2-3 hours travel, you're with your extended family. While when you move to another country, you're only with your small family, and that means that you have to solve everything by yourself. You
Yeah.
spend a lot of time with the family, for better or worse, and it's a really reinforcing experience. We traveled a lot. We did a 2 months camping trip at the end. We spent a lot of time together as a family, and I think it really strengthened us.
Yeah. So that was like after, so like you become so after your postdoc, you become professor in Technion. And since we are talking about encouraging women in science, and nowadays, you know, like for example, I myself was in contact with you via LinkedIn and also by
Mm-hmm.
email. So, but now I also want to tell the women in science that it's also, social media is also a good opportunity to stay connected. And so now Tama is also on Twitter, and of course she's on LinkedIn. So you can follow her and learn more from her via her Twitter and LinkedIn accounts. And yeah, so this is one thing I wanted to highlight. But my next question is, you know, although we face more challenges being women in science, and sometimes it's discrimination, sometimes something else personal, and all these things, but at on the other hand, sometimes our achievements are underrated, saying because we are women. So have you faced this situation, like if something has you achieved something and then suddenly there was a comment that, oh yeah, because you are a woman. So how do you handle that?
Hmm. That's an interesting question. Okay, so personally, especially when my kids were young and during my PhD, I felt super proud that, you know, I managed to achieve whatever I achieved, despite the fact that I was in 2 maternity leaves during my PhD. So I actually thought that this is um, an advantage. Like if I would look at a resume of a person and see that they did, I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 together with raising a family, I think that this tells me they usually are capable of doing multitasking, that they know how to combine different things in their life. Um, so that is one aspect of that, but I myself didn't see a lot of direct discrimination for me, but I know it's there, and maybe it's not even, sometimes it's not direct discrimination, but it's kind of people don't understand that sometimes it takes women a bit more time to achieve certain achievements because certain things like maternity leave, and because they don't take that into consideration, it looks like their achievement are not as long. There's not a long list like other, let's say, candidates. And I did hear from time to time, okay, you got this fellowship because you're a woman, and they probably wanted some women in the list or something like that. I
Actually,
usually just ignore it.
this happened recently with me when I got a fellowship, and then somehow I heard the one comment that might be because you are a woman, and I felt really disappointed that I did participate in two interview levels, but how could you say this?
Yeah, so people always say stuff, but some of them are inappropriate. But you know, as you learn to, as a scientist, especially if you pursue academic career, you must learn how to ignore rejections. Let's say your paper is rejected and you still believe in it, so you submit it to a different journal. So you just ignore not very smart comments like that.
Yeah,
Of course, there's a line. Some things are just we should not allow people to say such things.
yeah,
But on the other hand, I was just really a few days ago discussing some candidate for faculty position with someone here in the Technion, and not in our department. And he said something that he looked at the candidate, she's a woman, CV, and only later he realized that during her postdoc she had 2 children, and he was amazed that she accomplished so much with having 2 babies, and he looked even more positively on her after this additional knowledge. And he kind of commented, say, wow, we never give place for that in our CV, right? We never say, okay, here I was in maternity leave, or here. You have to kind of guess it between the lines. So maybe that's a thought. Maybe we shouldn't hide it. I used to say about my PhD that I finished my PhD with I don't know, several papers, but 3 papers as first author, and also 3 babies. And I thought, okay, I managed to do some good achievements.
yeah. So, like being women, we also are a little bit emotional. Means I don't know more, but I'm quite emotional, and we say that women have this high EQ, emotional quotient. So, does that help, or there are disadvantages of those emotional ups and downs?
Um, I think it helps. I think that having emotional intelligence um, is helpful. Is helpful in reading people. At the end, we're not. Science is progressing through people's work,
Yeah,
and people, um, they behave according to their environment. So I think that if you have better emotional intelligence, then you are able to read people better, to encourage them when they need encouragement, set demands when they need demands, to recruit people that will be a good match to yourself or to the group. And if women are indeed better in that aspect, yes, and it is an advantage that they can be better mentors. They could be they could be
yeah,
emotional when you need to be emotional.
yeah. So yeah, that's really good. And Yeah, so sometimes, people also nowadays it has become quite common, and I found it really quite common in different countries. I saw this that in name of professionalism, people behave quite rude, and they find it quite right. And I think no, it's quite inhuman. How do you handle such situations?
Yes, I agree with you that people should not be rude, no matter what. Um, and if they're rude, then they're out of line and they should be told so. I don't have a specific example that I can think of right now.
No, but I think this point is already enough that we raised that this is quite happening these days, that professionalism is taken in wrong meaning, and people found it a way of being rude or just inappropriate in many ways. So,
Yeah, I
yeah, but
really
I think
discourage that. There's a saying in Hebrew, "Derech Eretz kadma leTorah," which means that you should have good manners before you learn something. So it's
yeah,
more important to have good manners to be knowledgeable. And I
yeah,
agree with that.
that's really beautiful one. So then I come to the very last question, but it's a lot of you as well. That I wrote you an email that Tama, I'm starting a YouTube channel, and I was quite worried that how you are going to react. That suddenly a postdoctoral fellow is going to spend maybe at least a few hours of the week on such things, and she might lose the main means she might lose little bit of work time or something, but you encouraged me and you were quite positive about it. What was your thought behind it?
Yeah, I remember reading your email. It was quite late at night. And I immediately thought, this is wonderful. I think that our job as scientists and faculty members, postdocs, is not just to promote the science in the lab, but also promote it outside the lab and maybe bring it in an accessible manner to other people who are currently not doing a PhD in chemical engineering or something like that. And I hope that your YouTube channel will help with that challenge. And the truth is, it's always a matter of balance. If you told me that you're gonna start a YouTube channel and you're gonna volunteer in, I don't know, something else, and you're gonna do a lot other 10 things that are not related to your postdoc, at some point I would tell you, okay, you have to choose what's most important for you. You can't do everything. It's like there's only 24 hours in a day. But I do believe that we should not work the entire 24 hours in the lab. We should find a way to make our life interesting. And if we're passionate about something, like you're passionate about this YouTube channel, at the end, it will just make you work stronger in the lab.
Yeah,
Because you want to be the next one who I'm going to interview you, and you're going to tell us all about your beautiful discoveries.
yeah. So now I come to the very last question, because you are always encouraging and always trying to be positive, but so how do you stay healthy mentally and of course physically as well, and so that keeps you positive, and then you also transfer the positive vibes to others?
So first, I want to be clear and say that not everything goes great. It's not that the entire thing is smooth and everything just works for the best. I think that the strength is to know how to manage even the bad things, that, for example, your paper get rejected, or you didn't get this fellowship, or something goes wrong in the lab, or I don't know what happened, our machine broke and we have to pay thousands of dollars to fix it, and there are many other things that can go wrong. Um, my postdoc supervisor once told me that a faculty member doesn't well, that you should judge people not by the amount of balls they have in the air, but how they manage themselves when the balls are dropped to the floor. Okay, so so every person finds its own way to manage bad things that happen in life, both personally and professionally, and it's not always just, you know, great. For me, my family is a big support. Actually, the fact that I do have children and spouse, but now specifically I want to talk about the children. And you mentioned, and I mentioned, and of course it's obvious that you have children, you have more work and more duties and a lot in your schedule, and you have to kind of do a lot of things. But then it also puts some proportion in life. So, you know, when I'm frustrated from an experiment that didn't go, and I'm very concerned, and then I go back home and my kids, maybe one of them is crying because something went wrong in school, or he's disappointed for something else, and I say, okay, I need to be there and help them. And I can forget for a moment for my experiment, and it's not all it's the world is complicated, and my world is complicated, and it's good to have some proportion. Not to be always focused about yourself and your career, but other parts of my world and community. So this is one aspect, having some proportion. The other aspect is having a supportive family that can encourage me when things don't go as well as I wanted them. And also, yeah, take time for yourself. At some point in my PhD, I realized I don't have any hobbies. I was very occupied with, you know, very young kids and doing my PhD. And I said, oh my God, I don't have anything else in life. And then I said, okay, I really like reading books. So I'm gonna start reading books again. And at the beginning, I was so tired in the evenings because babies kept waking up in the middle of the night. So I would read, you know, just 2-3 pages and fall asleep. But you know, the kids grew, and I had more time to myself and traveled to conferences where I took my books to the airplane. And so slowly I kind of gave back more I had additional time to my hobbies, and now I have an additional hobby. I play the piano, so I go once a week for a piano lesson, and I like seeing friends. So besides the COVID pandemic, I meet with a lot of friends, and so that helps me stay healthily, mentally health, with my mental health. I want to say sport because I want to be a very sportive person. I'm not, but I do, you know, 2-3 times a week. I manage to do some sport.
Yeah, so this is I think quite an important part of all I have seen. Mostly the professors, scientists, or research scholars, they do sports, and they do try to get good diet so that they have they can handle the stress. So do you also believe that having a good diet helps you?
Yes, of course. I think it's a part of our life, and everybody choose what they think is a healthy diet. A few months ago, I decided to become a vegetarian, and I feel very good with that. So now I'm a vegetarian.
Yeah, this is, like, I don't know, but I feel like when we eat simple and healthy meal, then we are less tend to get depressed or negative, or so it helps us in staying positive. So
Yeah, I'm used to feel very tired from time to time, and I think that with my vegetarian
maybe you're
nutrition, I feel a bit better. Um, so,
Yeah.
but I'm not. I don't presume to give any advice on that, and this is just my personal opinion.
Okay, thank you so much, Tama. It was really a fun interview, and really enjoyed very much. And I know you personally, but the aim was that I wanted to give this message to others. So we recorded this video, and I'm sure that this is going to help many women in science, and of course, anyone who is related to any women in science, it will help them. So, thank you so much for this, and we will meet again tomorrow in the lab.
Right, but thank you, Cutie, and thank you for the interview and giving me the opportunity to share my personal thoughts that maybe will help other people as well.
Yeah, it's really needed around the globe, so it's fantastic. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Cutie. Goodbye.